Hey, what's up, guys? In today's video, I'm going to do another case study for you of a recent deal we did. This one is an estate case, meaning the homeowners had passed away. So we were working on behalf of the heirs in this case. And for some of you that are doing this business, perhaps you have encountered this situation before. And the situation is maybe you have 2 or 3 heirs. There were 3 heirs in this case, 2 brothers and a sister. And perhaps you've come across this where one of the heirs or 2 of the heirs or however many it is, they're not interested in participating in the recovery process. And so I know some of you have asked me about this. And so what do you do in that situation? What do you do when you have, let's say, 2 siblings? One sibling wants to recover the funds and the other sibling wants nothing to do with it. So it depends on the scenario. It depends on the situation. There are ways to recover the full amount of overage just by working with 1 or 2 heirs, such was the case in this case study that I'm going to go over with you. In other scenarios, you may only be able to recover a portion of the funds. And I can show you another case study where we did that as well. So it just depends on the scenario. But let's walk through this case study and hopefully you get some value out of this and you learn something new. So here's a situation. Here's a picture of the house. The 2 owners had passed away. Their daughter was actually living in the property. So the deceased homeowners had 3 children, 2 sons and a daughter. The daughter was living in the house at the time of the tax sale. We had made contact with all 3 of the heirs, so both the brothers and the sister. The sister and 1 brother were both interested in pursuing the funds. The 3rd brother was not interested in participating, didn't say why, he just was not interested. But he did say that he would allow his sister to take care of his portion. So what ended up happening in this scenario is the brother was able to sign some documentation, basically giving his interest in the funds to his sister. So that is a possibility in some cases. In other cases, it may not be a possibility. But the bottom line is there needs to be some sort of paperwork where a sibling or an heir gives that right or that interest to another heir in order for you to collect the full amount. They can't just say, oh, I'm not interested, and then you just go and collect the full amount. There has to be some legal paperwork that is executed transferring that interest to somebody else. Does that make sense? In some other cases, in fact, I'll show you just real quickly if I can find it. Whoops. What happened to my screen share? There it is. So there's that scenario. Here's another scenario that's a little different. This one right here, I've done a case study on this. So in this case study, we had 2 heirs. And what we did in this scenario is we recovered only a portion of the funds. And then we were able to go back and get the 2nd heir on board and recover the rest of the funds. So that's another way that you can handle this scenario where you're dealing with multiple heirs, is you can either try to get the full amount in one shot, or you can recover it in portions. Maybe you recover half and then you go back, sign up the other heir, recover the other half, which is what we did in this case study. Okay. So it just depends, guys. It just depends on the situation. This is one thing I always say, like, you have to be flexible, and you have to be able to understand that every case has its unique challenges, and you have to be able to overcome and solve those challenges and those problems. No case is the same. And so that's why it's really important to educate yourself and learn from someone that's seen these situations so that you know what to do when you encounter them yourself. Now, going back to this case study, So the amount we were able to recover was a little less than $60,000. You can see right here is $59,855. That's what we recovered. Our portion was actually $17,000, but after fees, our net profit was only $11,000 on this deal. It's still a good deal. This case was interesting in the fact that it was one of the first times in the almost, this is 6 years of doing this, that we actually had to perform a probate. I have been fortunate in past cases that we've been able to find ways to not have to do probate. In fact, there are actual laws that you can cite in your claims that if an overage is under a certain amount and the overage is the only asset of an estate, then you can move forward claiming those funds on behalf of heirs without performing a probate. And there are statutes that allow this. Every statute is different in each state, but that's something that I've used a lot to avoid the extra expense of going through probate, and also to avoid extra delays. Because when you have to do a probate, guys, it's going to take longer to recover the funds. Case in point, this one, it took us almost 7 months to get the check. From the time we submitted the claim to the time we got the check was almost 7 months. And that's because we had to do a probate. Now, some of you may be asking, what is a probate? Simplest terms that I can explain it is, a probate is basically where you have to go through a court process where a judge looks at the assets of somebody's estate and dictates who is entitled to it. Or another way to say it is, a judge designates a person to oversee the estate and make sure all of the assets of the estate are distributed properly. Okay. That's the simplest way to explain a probate. Maybe I butchered that, but you could always look at the definition of a probate. Now, the reason a probate causes extra delay and extra expense is because it's a separate action. It's a separate case it's a separate matter, right? So you have, your one objective is to recover surplus funds. But now you have a second objective where you have to do a probate. You have to get letters from a judge saying, okay, this person is the executor or the administrator. They're in charge. And then that person has to go and, help you file for the surplus. Okay. So it's two separate matters. And because of that, now your attorney is doing two separate things, and that creates extra expense. So I like to avoid probate whenever I can. Again, because I want to avoid the extra expense and I want to avoid the extra time involved, because it's going to delay us getting the check and getting the funds for our clients. Now, there are other things you can do to avoid probate, and this is something that I teach in one of my elite programs. It's kind of more high-level stuff, but we do go over this in my elite program. So at the end of the day, our attorney's expenses were $6,700, if I remember, just under $7,000. That's a lot, right? Here's the good thing, though. I did not have to pay that full amount up front. So money out of my pocket in this deal was $1,000. I had to pay a $1,000 retainer to my attorney to get the process started. Now, then they started billing me hourly. So they billed me hourly for the probate case and for, also dispersing the funds, all this other stuff. And that added up very quickly. Here's a little nugget for you guys. Even if a law firm charges you hourly, sometimes there can be a delay. And what do I mean by that? So they do the work, they document it, they send you an invoice saying, okay, we did this, this, and this. Here's how much you owe us. Send you an invoice, right? sometimes there can be a delay to where, you may have 30 days or 60 days to pay that invoice off. And during that time, sometimes you receive the check for the surplus funds. And so here's the nugget, guys. Even if someone charges you hourly, there are some law firms where they may invoice you, but then they'll just they'll pay off that invoice once the surplus funds arrive. Little nugget there. So that's especially a good nugget for you guys that are worried about having money to pay for attorneys. That's what happened in this case. So I paid my $1,000 retainer. The rest of that money that I owed them came out of the surplus check when it arrived. So our amount was actually like $17,000, but then the attorney paid themselves with our permission, and then they sent us the difference, which is great because I didn't have to come out of pocket over $6,000. I only had to come out of pocket one. Does that make sense? Hopefully that makes sense. The bottom line is law firms, especially the big ones, they're flexible and they may charge hourly, but I found in my experience, a lot of them are just fine taking their cut, taking what they're owed out of the check on the back end. At least with the larger law firms, that seems to be a kosher practice. Now, if you're working, here's a quick caveat because I want to give you guys some good value here. If you're working with smaller law firms, maybe like an attorney that's doing part-time side work for you or a very small outfit, they may want their funds up front, or sometimes what I found is they are more open to doing like a flat fee arrangement or a contingency arrangement. And so in those scenarios, again, you may not have to come out of pocket any money to get the case started, especially on contingency. My favorite arrangement is a flat rate contingent upon recovery of surplus, meaning it's a flat rate no matter what the amount is, and the attorney takes that flat rate once the surplus gets paid out. That's my favorite. However, a lot of times hourly can be the cheapest. On a straightforward case, guys, if you're just dealing directly with the homeowner and there's no liens, there's no estate, nothing, I would recommend to go hourly because it should not take an attorney more than 2 to 4 hours to submit a claim and get the funds. If it's taking them more than that on a straightforward case, they've probably never done it before, or they're dinking around or something. I don't know. It's not difficult to file a claim. Even if it's a court action, it's not difficult for an attorney to draft all of the paperwork, get it filed, and get the check. 2 to 4 hours on average on a straightforward case. Okay. What else can I say? I need to give credit where credit is due. This was a joint venture deal. So my partner on this was Pat. We've done lots of deals together. So shout out to Pat. You're awesome. This was a doozy, right? This one took for 7 months. It feels longer than that, but in the long term, once you get it filed, you're not really doing anything. At that point, the attorney's doing all the work. So, but it was a long wait, right, Pat? So, but we got it done, and we were very happy as well. I know our client who was living in the house, she was extremely happy to get some money out of this deal. But yeah, I don't think there's anything else I can go over with you guys. I hope you found some value in this. Again, guys, I share a lot of, what we do, why we do it. If you want kind of the how-to, check out our program at school.overagecourse.com. We also have our elite program, and that's where I kind of do more small groups. So it's usually about 10 to 20 people at a time, very small, intimate group. And I kind of guide you through the process, teach you some more advanced strategies, as well as other scenarios, other strategies to profit in addition to surplus funds, and how to work cases where, let's say, you can't find a claimant. How can you still work the case? How can you still profit from a case when you can't find somebody or they don't want to work with you? So we talk about that as well. So you can check those out. And then, of course, there's the basic free training at overagesyndicate.com. So anyway, guys, I hope this case study was of value to you. Let me know your questions in the comments below. And if you find any value, or if you find my videos helpful at all, please like, subscribe, and share them with other people. I'd really appreciate that. Other free resources. I mean, shoot, guys, this channel has over 100 videos of free content for you. We also have a Facebook group you can be a part of. So use these resources. And then, of course, if you want to get the step-by-step how-to, check out our training. And the link for that's below. All right, guys, I think that's it. Not too bad. Went over a little long, a little over 10 minutes, but I hope you learned something today. So I appreciate you watching, and let me know if you like these case studies. I'll continue to do them. If you don't like them, then I won't do them. Would love to get your feedback on that, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks, guys.